Hello, this is Amy Kelly for Ards Allotments, and today I've got some tips for you to get the best out of your tomatoes. So the first thing is you need to be aware that different types of tomatoes grow in different ways. So you can divide your tomatoes into three basic categories: cordon varieties, bush varieties, and hanging basket varieties. So your hanging basket varieties will cascade over the side of whatever pot or plant or hanging basket that you put them in. They don't need any pruning whatsoever, just let them grow away, do their own thing. What you need to do to get the best out of these is give them the warmest, sunniest spot you possibly can. A lovely warm sunny wall is just perfect for them. They don't need to be grown in a greenhouse, but they do want as much sun and shelter as you can give them. So this variety is Tumbling Tom. It's a really good one, but there's loads of hanging basket tomatoes out there. You can get them in reds and yellows. There's Tumbling Tom Red and Tumbling Tom Yellow. The main thing with all of them is just as much warmth and shelter as you can give them. Nice tomato feed once a week, keep them well watered, and let them do their own thing, and you'll be picking lovely tomatoes before you know it. The second variety of tomatoes are bush or determinate tomatoes. So the little hanging basket ones are the baby ones. These are the middle, so they won't grow as tall as the big tall cordon ones, but the size and whether or not they need to grow in a greenhouse is determined entirely by the variety. So if you're not sure what size and everything yours is going to get to, hop on the internet. The internet is your friend. Do a little search and see exactly what you're going to be dealing with. Now, you do not prune bush or determinate tomatoes. You just let them do their own thing. They'll send out lots of little shoots all around the side. That's good. That's what's going to have the fruit on it. So if you pinch all of those out, you're not going to get any fruit. So again, determinate bush tomatoes, no pruning, just let them do their own thing. Tomato feed once a week, keep them well watered, don't let them dry out too much. If you're letting them dry out and start wilting every time between waterings, you will have problems with fruit. You'll get things like blossom end rot, where you get a little black circle on the end of your tomatoes and they're not nice to eat anymore. So keep them well watered, give them a bit of fertilizer. If the stems start to flop over everywhere, put some stakes around it and tie a bit of string just to stop them from flopping everywhere, but do not prune them, let them do their own thing, and that's the bush or determinate varieties. Now we're on to the big boys. These are the cordon tomatoes, and they will happily get to a couple of meters tall. If you're growing them in artificial conditions with artificial heat and light, they will grow meters and meters and meters and meters and meters tall. In our climate, you really need to snip the tip off of it once it starts getting too big for your greenhouse. But these are the ones that you want to grow as one single long stem. That's why it's called a cordon. Think like a cord. Cordon, big long single stem, and the tomato fruit trusses will come directly off of that stem. So where you start to get little cheeky extra bits trying to grow between the leaves, you want to pinch those out. And that's literally take your fingers and pinch it and pull it away. You can snip it if you want to, but really all you need to do is pinch it. So see, there's another cheeky branch trying to grow there. We don't want that. We're going to pinch that out. And every leaf along here is going to eventually end up with one of those. So you do have to keep pinching them. They grow amazingly fast in the summer, so do stay on top of it. Now, because these are such a big, long, tall single stem, they're going to need some support. So this fellow is going to grow 2 meters tall. So I'm going to use short things here just to show you what to do, but you will need to use big, tall stakes or whatever. So you can either stake them by putting a stake into your pot or your grow bag and then tying around the stem to the stake and just carrying on as it goes up. Again, make sure you use a big enough stake from day one. The alternative, if you're growing in a greenhouse, is you can just use a piece of string. So you tie a nice loose loop of the string around the stem of the tomato, like that, and then you tie the top of the string to the top of your greenhouse. And then as the tomato grows, you just wind it round the string. And because the string's soft, you're never going to do any damage to the stem, and it's nice and easy. It only takes a few seconds. So you see there the way I've got the stem just looped around the string like that, and that's going to give it all the support that it needs. So whether you're using stakes or whether you're using strings, if you are growing big tall cordon tomatoes, you need to support them, you need to pinch out those little side shoots, and again you need to keep them well watered, and you need to give them a nice tomato based fertilizer once a week. If you're growing really organically, amazing job you. Keep an eye out for comfrey. Comfrey is in flower at this time of year. It's got little yellow or little purple flowers. The leaves of comfrey are full of potassium, which is what's in tomato feed. So if you pick a load of comfrey leaves, whack them into a bucket, fill that bucket up with water and let it sit for 2 or 3 weeks, it will turn into a really smelly but really good natural liquid feed. And you just take 1 cup of that smelly comfrey water with 10 cups of fresh water, and that is your perfect tomato feed. It's good for any fruiting or flowering plant. Not so good for the leafy vegetables. Do the same thing with nettles for leafy vegetables. Nettles are high in nitrogen. Nettles for nitrogen for leafy vegetables, comfrey for potassium for tomatoes and flowering plants. So whether you're making your own wonderful homemade liquid feed or whether you're buying anything from the shop, the main thing is to make sure you give it to the tomatoes once a week in the correct ratio. Don't try and give them too much fertilizer, you'll just poison them. So always follow the instructions, make sure that you're keeping them well watered, and just let them grow away and you'll be enjoying lovely tomatoes before you know it. Here's a little tip for when it's time to move your tomatoes onto a bigger pot. Unlike many plants, tomatoes, which are a member of the potato family, so that will probably tell you why, tomatoes will grow roots the whole way along the stem if you let them. So this is a lovely healthy cordon variety called Orange Queen. It has lovely orangey fruit and we really enjoyed it last year. So I'm growing it again this year. As you can see, we've got a lovely, nice, healthy root run here in the root trainer that I was growing it in, but now it is well and truly time to put it into a bigger pot. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to snap off all of these lower leaves, all of them, all of that, and I'm going to plant it that deep in the pot. So all of this is going to be under the ground and lovely new roots are going to come out all along that stem and make this a really healthy plant. Now don't think, oh no, you've just made your plant so short. What I've done is I've given it a really good, healthy, big space for roots, and it is going to shoot up and grow amazingly fast because it's got all of that extra nutrients. So you can plant your tomatoes just as deep as you like, snap the wee leaves off because they'll just rot in the ground anyway, and before you know it, little roots are going to start poking out all over that stem and you will have a really lovely, healthy, well-rooted plant. So you really can't plant these too deep. Plant them as deep as you like, really good nutritious compost. And just a little reminder, because they are in the same family as tomato plants, if you're growing them in grow bags and then tipping the grow bag soil onto your allotment, just remember tomatoes are susceptible to the same diseases as potatoes are. So just keep that in mind with your crop rotation. Absolutely reuse the soil. Just make sure that you don't put it into a bed that's going to mess up your crop rotation. So nice and deep, plenty of water, plenty of fertilizer, and you'll have happy tomatoes before you know it.